The very first requirement to become an IS officer is patience. Specifically, the patience to complete this entire video topic. Since it is your dream to clear the exam, stay focused and commit yourself to completing this lesson. Today, we are going to discuss one of the most important geopolitical developments of 2026, the renewed diplomatic engagement between the United States and China after a gap of 9 years, and more importantly, what this development means for India strategically, economically, and geopolitically. This summit is not merely a bilateral meeting between two powerful nations. Rather, it represents a structural recalibration of the international order. Many analysts have termed it the stalemate summit because although the summit did not resolve the deeper structural rivalry between the two powers, it created a temporary framework of strategic stability and transactional cooperation. To understand the significance of this summit, we must first recognize the broader context. For the last decade, global politics has increasingly revolved around US-China competition. Trade wars, technological sanctions, semiconductor restrictions, military tensions in the Indo-Pacific, and strategic rivalry in emerging technologies had all created a highly polarized environment. Countries across the world, including India, adjusted their foreign policies and economic strategies according to this polarization. However, the 2026 summit indicates that both powers are now attempting to manage competition rather than escalate confrontation. Let us first examine the key outcomes of the summit. One of the most important dimensions was the economic compromise between the two countries. China agreed to purchase at least $17 billion annually in American agricultural products for the next 3 years, including commodities such as soybeans and beef. This move serves multiple objectives. For the United States, it provides immediate relief to domestic agricultural sectors and manufacturing constituencies. For China, it helps stabilize trade relations and reduce economic uncertainty at a time when its own economy faces internal challenges. In addition to agriculture, China also approved an initial order of 200 Boeing aircraft. This is highly significant because Boeing represents not just an economic symbol, but also a political symbol of American industrial strength. The order injects confidence into the American manufacturing sector and indicates that despite technological rivalry, both sides remain deeply economically interdependent. Another crucial outcome was the establishment of the new institutional mechanisms, the US-China Board of Trade and the US-China Board of Investment. The Board of Trade will supervise commerce in non-sensitive goods and manage tariff disputes, while the Board of Investment will discuss investment rules and non-tariff barriers. This is extremely important because it institutionalized dialogue. Instead of ad hoc confrontations, both nations are creating permanent mechanisms to regulate friction. In international relations, institutionalization reduces unpredictability and creates strategic guardrails. The summit also produced notable developments in technology and critical minerals. The United States allowed 10 Chinese firms to resume purchasing advanced NVIDIA H200 chips, which are critical for artificial intelligence and frontier computing systems. However, broader export controls on advanced lithography equipment remain intact. This tells us that the United States is willing to allow limited technological engagement, but not enough to undermine its long-term strategic advantage. Simultaneously, the United States pressed China for assurances regarding critical mineral supplies, especially minerals like yttrium, neodymium, and indium, which are essential for semiconductors, electric vehicles, and advanced defense systems. This reflects the new geopolitics of technology. Earlier, oil determined strategic competition. Today, rare earth minerals and semiconductor supply chains are becoming equally important. Now, one of the most intellectually significant aspects of the summit was the emphasis on strategic stability and the avoidance of what scholars call the Thucydides trap. The Chinese leadership proposed a framework of constructive strategic stability designed to keep competition manageable and prevent accidental conflict. The idea of the Thucydides trap comes from historical analysis, which suggests that war often becomes likely when a rising power challenges an established power. China clearly wants to reassure the international community that competition with the United States should not necessarily culminate in military conflict. However, it is important to understand that this does not mean rivalry has disappeared. Rather, rivalry is now being managed through tactical cooperation. Both sides are attempting to prevent uncontrolled escalation because the economic and military costs of direct confrontation would be catastrophic. The summit also addressed several geopolitical flashpoints. There was rhetorical convergence on keeping the Strait of Hormuz open and ensuring that Iran does not acquire nuclear weapons. But China stopped short of making concrete commitments to pressure Iran. This demonstrates China's cautious balancing strategy in West Asia. Taiwan emerged as another major issue. The Chinese president strongly warned against any mishandling of Taiwan, indicating that Beijing continues to view Taiwan as a core national interest. Interestingly, the United States avoided making deeper structural commitments on the Taiwan issue during the summit. This suggests that Washington currently prioritizes stabilization over provocation. Another softer but significant dimension was people-to-people engagement. China's initiative to invite 50,000 young Americans over 5 years was further advanced, and more than 40,000 youths have already participated in exchange programs. Such exchanges are often described as the lubricant of international relations because they build societal familiarity, even when strategic tensions remain. Now, the most important question for us is this: what are the implications of this summit for India? Let us begin with the concerns. First, there is the issue of dilution of India's strategic leverage. Over the last decade, India's geopolitical importance in Washington grew substantially because India was viewed as a crucial Indo-Pacific counterweight to China. As US-China tensions intensified, the United States increasingly deepened defense cooperation, intelligence sharing, and strategic coordination with India. But if Washington and Beijing now manage their rivalry through tactical accommodation, India's bargaining power may reduce. The United States may no longer feel the same urgency to heavily empower India against China. In such a situation, frameworks like the Quad may lose momentum because bilateral US-China management could take precedence over minilateral balancing coalitions. This creates the fear of a G2 bilateralism, a situation where the United States and China act as the two dominant managers of the global order while bypassing broader multilateral institutions and middle powers. The second concern relates to the erosion of the China plus one strategy. India has tried to position itself as the major alternative destination for global supply chains seeking to reduce dependence on China. Many multinational corporations considered shifting manufacturing to India because US-China tensions had made China riskier. However, if trade tensions stabilize, companies may once again view China favorably due to its superior infrastructure, manufacturing ecosystems, and logistical efficiencies. Consequently, India could face slower foreign direct investment inflows in sectors like electronics, semiconductors, and advanced manufacturing. The third concern involves West Asia and energy security. Although US-China coordination in maintaining stable energy flows benefits India as a large crude importer, India cannot rely on great power arrangements to protect its strategic interests. If China acquires a larger role in stabilizing the Persian Gulf, India's own strategic initiatives, such as Chabhar Port and the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, may lose relative importance. Furthermore, a greater Chinese role in West Asia directly challenges India's maritime ambitions in the Western Indian Ocean region. Another major concern is the possibility of an emboldened China on the border. The summit symbolically elevates China as an equal peer to the United States. This global validation may reduce international pressure on Beijing regarding its aggressive postures elsewhere, including along the line of actual control with India. Additionally, if the United States becomes excessively transactional in its approach toward China, Washington may overlook China's military and technological support to Pakistan. This could intensify India's long-term two-front security challenge. However, the summit also creates certain opportunities for India. The first opportunity lies in sustaining strategic autonomy. A less polarized international environment gives India greater diplomatic flexibility. India can continue maintaining strong ties with Russia while simultaneously engaging the West. It can also strengthen its role as a voice of the global South through platforms such as the G20 and BRICS. Second, the summit reinforces the urgency of defense indigenization. India now has stronger reasons to accelerate Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense production because external alignments can shift rapidly. Dependence on foreign security guarantees is inherently unstable. Third, India is incentivized to pursue independent trade partnerships more aggressively. Rather than relying excessively on American economic preferences, India can accelerate agreements such as the India-EU Free Trade Agreement and depend technology partnerships with countries like Sweden. Now let us discuss what India's strategy should be in response to this evolving geopolitical environment. The first strategic response should be what may be termed strategic autonomy 2.0. India must avoid becoming trapped in a binary US-China framework. Instead, it should cultivate multiple centers of partnership. This means maintaining robust relations with Russia, not merely for historical reasons, but because a strategically autonomous Russia prevents complete Chinese dominance in Eurasia. India should also diversify technological and industrial partnerships with countries such as France, Germany, and Sweden. Simultaneously, while remaining active within the Quad, India should independently deepen military and maritime cooperation with Japan, Australia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. The second strategy involves tactical de-escalation with China. If the United States itself is reducing confrontation, India should not remain the sole frontline state engaged in perpetual hostility. India must maintain a firm military posture while also keeping diplomatic channels open with Beijing. At the same time, India should dramatically accelerate border infrastructure projects, including the frontier highway and strategic connectivity corridors. The logic here is simple. Durable peace comes not from weakness, but from credible strength and rapid deployment capabilities. India may also selectively permit Chinese investment in non-sensitive manufacturing sectors, where such investments can help domestic production and exports without compromising national security. The third major strategy must focus on transforming India into a sovereign manufacturing hub. India cannot depend only on geopolitical tensions to attract investment. It must become intrinsically competitive. This requires deep reforms in land acquisition, labor flexibility, logistics, and ease of doing business. India must also scale up domestic production in semiconductors, advanced electronics, and electric vehicle supply chains through enhanced production-linked incentive schemes. In addition, India should reduce dependence on Chinese refinery monopolies by utilizing forums like the Mineral Security Partnership, while simultaneously developing independent mineral processing partnerships with countries such as Brazil. The fourth strategy relates to consolidating India's leadership of the Global South. India should actively use platforms like BRICS and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization to ensure that global governance structures are not monopolized by US-China duopoly. India can further strengthen its influence by exporting digital public infrastructure, such as UPI, and by offering transparent and sustainable development partnerships to developing nations. This provides an alternative to China's debt-centric Belt and Road Initiative model. Finally, India must pursue complete self-reliance in defense and space sectors. The summit demonstrates that great power equations are fluid and transactional. Therefore, India's national security architecture must rest on indigenous capability. Defense procurement cycles need drastic simplification, and major contracts must include complete technology transfers.